Hello and welcome to the video. Today I'm going to be covering my top 5 exercises to increase the size of your back, to build a big, wide, thick back, which is what everyone wants. There are 3 things that I need to say before we get into it. The first one is what I base my decisions on. There are 4 things I look from an exercise when judging how good it is. How much of a stretch the muscle gets, how much of a contraction the muscle gets, how isolated the muscle is, and how heavy you can load the exercise. I prioritize isolation above everything in these factors. If a muscle is isolated, it is the muscle that has to adapt to the training stimulus. If you have compound exercises, they're great because you can load them heavy, but often the other muscles, if they're your strong points, can take over. So I value isolation because it means that the muscle that we're trying to train, in this episode that's back, will get hit the most. So all of these try to isolate the back. The second thing to say is that when you are back training, often your grip fatigues first. Back training involves holding implements and pulling them towards you in some sort of capacity or holding them. Your grip is made of much smaller muscles that fatigue much faster. If your grip's fatiguing before your back every time you train it, you're not training your back effectively. You're training your grip effectively and you're not training your back very effectively. So I highly recommend investing in a set of grips. They're light and easy to carry to the gym. They'll fit in your gym bag. They last a long time. They're pretty cheap and they absolutely change all of these exercises from grip exercises into back exercises. So I definitely recommend picking yourself up a set of grips. The third thing to say is that there is a bonus exercise in this video, a 6th exercise. This is an exercise that I think everybody should be doing for their back, but it doesn't train the traditional parts of the back that you want to look big. Most people want their upper back to look big, so their traps or their lats. This trains your lower back and your erectors. I still think that growing those looks great, and it also has the knock-on effect that if your lower back fatigues when trying to train your upper back, this will help strengthen that. So often people, when in a bent over row, their lower back starts to cave and round because it can't isometrically hold your weight while you're trying to do the rows with the upper body. Your lower back ends up fatiguing before your upper back. If you do the bonus exercise, that won't happen and you'll then be able to train your upper back more effectively. So yeah, that's it. Without further ado, let's get to it. So coming in at spot number 5 is the farmer's hold / farmer's walk. This exercise has basically no range of motion. You're not contracting or moving your arms at all, so the back is not being worked through a range of motion. This does mean it suffers when it comes to the contraction the back gets and the stretch that the back gets. However, the other 2 factors, it isolates the upper back pretty well as long as you're using grips. You absolutely need to use grips for this one, otherwise it's just a grip exercise. And the other thing is that you can load it very heavy. You can load it the heaviest of all the exercises today, like by a significant margin. You should be able to do this like over double the weight of a lot of the other exercises today. And doing these heavy isometrics, I would do them for time. So I'd do a farmer's hold. You can do a farmer's walk if you're wanting to slightly train the lower body at the same time as well, but I would do farmer's holds for 30 seconds to a minute and load it up until that's challenging. You're in that golden range for time and detention, and that will cause hypertrophy and back to grow. Coming in at spot number 4 is pullovers / pull-throughs. Basically the same thing. One's just lying back on a bench with a dumbbell and one is using a cable stack. Now, quick thing to say, pullovers are not a chest exercise. Just because you contract your chest while doing something doesn't make it a chest exercise. If I go and get two dumbbells to do bicep curls and squeeze them together and go like this, my chest is still squeezing. It doesn't make it a chest exercise. Too many people say that it hits the chest. A dumbbell pullover, pulling your arms down, literally follows the exact function of the lat to pull the arm down and back. They're not chest exercises. These are, however, good lat exercises. So with the pullover in particular, you get a fantastic stretch on the muscle. This would be a good exercise to use in conjunction with the farmer's holds because they don't have any stretch on them. And you want to try and hit any muscle that you're training in as many different ways as possible. With pull-throughs, you also have the added benefit of if you use long ropes, you're able to pull past your body and get a great contraction as well as the great stretch at the top. However, you can't load it too heavy because it starts to involve the abs quite a lot. So there is the issue of isolation and loading on pull-throughs. Pull-overs then have their restriction that they don't have a good contraction. You can lower all the way to the bottom, but as soon as you hit your arms vertical, the weight's just grounding down through, and if you go past vertical, you actually train your delts to try and pull it back up. My recommendation is not even to go to vertical, to keep the tension on the lat by going high and then lowering straight back down. So don't quite pull all the way to vertical, but pullovers / pull-throughs, use them both interchangeably. They do a very similar role. So coming in at number 3 are shrugs. Any type of shrugs, barbell shrugs, trap bar shrugs, dumbbell shrugs, they're all fantastic. There are two main advantages of shrugs. One is that you get a fantastic contraction when doing shrugs. At the top, you can squeeze your traps very well. Now, you should be pulling funny faces when doing shrugs. There's something about the fact that it's all up into your neck that makes your face sort of spasm when doing them properly. There is nobody who's trained shrugs effectively with a deadpan face. It means you need to go heavier / contract them harder and work them better. But for those who do train it properly, they are a fantastic exercise for the traps. The next benefit is that you can load them very heavy. Because of the short range of motion and the strong position that you're in, you can load these heavy. They're the second heaviest exercise that you can load behind the farmer's hold, and what you can do is combine them with a farmer's hold. So you could pick a weight that you could only just get 10 reps of shrugs on. Do your 10 reps, fight through them, pull your funny faces, and then hold. Particularly with dumbbell or trap bar shrugs, just hold it there and you're basically doing a farmer's hold, and hold for like an extra, you can hold as long as you can, or you could do like 20 seconds, you can program it, whatever you want. That extra time and attention, particularly after you've pre-exhausted the traps with shrugs, will mean that the farmer's hold will be much more effective and will target those traps very well. Again, recommend using grips. Coming in at spot number 2 is rows. All rows. I've not split rows up into different ones. There's not like a single arm row. I can't even name my favorite row. I think they all hit everything great. Barbell rows, dumbbell rows, like single arm dumbbell rows, low rows, all types of rows are good rows. Rows are fantastic because you can load them pretty heavy still. The whole back you can load fairly heavy. Rows you can, for the range of motion you get, you can load them very heavy. The other distinct advantage they have compared with the 3 exercises that have come before them is that you get a great range of motion. You can let your shoulders come forward a bit and feel a great stretch on your lats and your traps and all of your upper back with rows, and then you can come back and squeeze all the way in. If you want to get an amazing contraction, think of trying to touch your elbows behind your back, and it'll help you squeeze your entire back, your upper back. Rows are fantastic. They're a staple of everybody who seems to develop a good upper back, particularly the traps, going down into the lower traps and the lats. They have a great stretch, they have a great contraction, you can load them very heavy, and as long as you're using grips and driving back with your elbows, rows will hit your back. Now, be vigilant with not using your biceps when doing this. If you're doing, for instance, bent over barbell rows, make sure your forearms are hanging vertically downwards and that you're driving with your elbows back to hit your upper back. Don't think of the bar coming up. If you think of the bar coming up, you'll pull and contract your biceps as well. If you think instead of driving with your elbows, that is when you will hit your upper back, and rows become my second best exercise on this list, but they're basically tied with the first best exercise. These are just slightly more trap focused, and the first exercise is slightly more lat focused. And I prioritize the lats because people want that V taper. So without further ado, I can get on to the number one exercise, which is the lat pull down. Very similar to the rows, it's just a vertical pull instead of like a horizontal / bent over pull. All the types of lat pull downs I love as well. They hit so much of the back. They obviously hit the lat, working all the way down into it. If you take a wider grip, you can target the teres major at the top of the lats, adding that absolute top of the V taper. It'll hit your rhomboids and your lower traps to develop that nice detailing in the center of your back. They are a fantastic exercise. Like with the rows, you need to not think of the bar coming down or whatever you're pulling down when doing them. You need to think of driving your elbows together. Using grips is helpful unless you have like mag grips, which take grip out of the equation anyway. But if you think of the bar coming down, people will often involve the biceps pulling down and caving shoulders forward at the bottom. You want to present your sternum up and drive those elbows together, whatever variation you have. If you're doing it one-armed, you can get an amazing stretch leaning over and then an amazing contraction all the way down as well. Every variation of lat pull downs is a fantastic exercise. Now, as a side note to lat pull downs, pull-ups are very similar. The only reason I didn't include them is because they involve the rest of the body. You have to have more core stability. You have to think of the rest of your body more. And lat pull downs, progressively overloading is very easy with a weight stack. Assisted pull-ups are quite easy, but you can only develop regular pull-ups with reps. A lot of people aren't strong enough to do a significant amount of pull-ups to train their back effectively. A lot of people use momentum when training pull-ups. They like flick up. It's just not as good an exercise for building size in the back, but pull-ups are a fantastic exercise. And if you are strong enough and do them with great form and find them useful, they are very similar to the lat pull down. They do a very similar job, but I find the lat pull down easier to coach and more effective for training size. And now on to the bonus sixth exercise. This is an amazing bit of kit. I literally have it right there. It takes up half of my gym, but I don't care because it's that important to me. It is the reverse hyper. You might not have heard of this machine before. I'm probably going to do a video dedicated to this machine specifically. So I might whack the link of that up in the corner once I've done it to spread the word of the importance of this, because loads of gyms don't have it. But there is no exercise like this exercise for training the lower back. A lot of people experience pain when training back, and all of the other exercises I've listed before in my top 5. If you want to help your lower back pain, reverse hypers are fantastic. The man who invented them, Louis Simmons, is my idol. I am following his training methods at the moment for powerlifting and strength, but he invented it because he broke his back. And he went on to total elite, so top 10 in the world for 34 years straight. I don't think there's any athlete who's been ranked top 10 in the world for 34 years in any sport ever, unless you counted something like chess. But the physical demands of lifting, he went on to lift astronomical numbers consistently for a long time after breaking his back. So this will absolutely help strengthen your back. It will help build that lower back. I like the look of a big, thick erectors at the bottom of the back. I think it looks great. Some people just want to build the upper back. I think the lower back's great, and it will help, like I said in the intro, you to train your lower back, because your lower back will no longer be the limiting factor when doing bent over rows. Instead of bending forwards because of your lower back, you will be able to train your upper back more effectively. You'll just be able to hold your lower back where it is and do your effective rows for the upper back. So I would definitely recommend doing that. A quick other side note I will address. People will be like, why aren't deadlifts in here or any of these other fantastic compound movements? These are fantastic movements, but I said in the intro, I value isolation of a muscle when trying to train that muscle. Many people have used deadlifts to build thick backs, like Ronnie Coleman, but the deadlift trains a lot of the body. You train it very heavily, and it's neurologically fatiguing. For those who don't know, when you train heavy, your nervous system gets fatigued, and you can get literally colds and sickness because you're exhausted training that heavy. And I find that deadlifts don't go through a range of motion with the arms, so they're just lacking on too many elements to have made this list. But if you do deadlifts, I do deadlifts because I want to get better at deadlifting, because I'm trying to do powerlifting, which involves literally deadlifting in competition. So I have to do deadlifts. I find them effective and a great exercise, and if you are going to do deadlifts, they can be great, but they didn't make this list for purely trying to grow mass on your back. Yeah, that's about it. I hope you did enjoy the video or found it useful. Maybe just hearing about reverse hypers for the first time and looking into them, getting one and sorting your back pain out. You can get a fold-up Rogue reverse hyper. I got one of those. You could probably fit it in a garage. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. I just really think that people should train their lower backs and get themselves back to being healthy and not having excuses for why you're not training your back. I can't do rows because my lower back hurts. You can now, because you've heard about the reverse hyper. Go away and look at it, and look at Louis Simmons. Anyway, hopefully you found this video informative or interesting or useful in some way. If you did like it, click the like button, comment, share, subscribe, all of that stuff, because that is useful and helpful for the channel. If you're interested in my coaching services, there will be a link in the description of the video. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.